Professor Raghuram, I have to come to you. Like, how do you think BITS is actually trying to overcome this inertia of incentivizing or instilling the spirit of creating enterprises within the faculty? Because you're in an engineering school, that's where patents could actually happen, that's where research could happen. What are you really doing?
What we did was to start this program, which is a part of the curriculum. It's a requirement of the curriculum, where the student spends about 5.5 months in the industry along with the faculty. The faculty participation is important. So faculty have to go out of their comfort zone and then station themselves in industries and create that link, the industry and the students, so that they can work on projects. This has been working on for the last 40 years, and today, as I speak, more than 1,000 students are spread all over India, BIT students working on their projects, and industries want them, and it's a win-win for the students as well as for the companies. I will give one example where BITS recently has started what we call as a industry immersion program, where we tell the faculty that we will, during the summer, we will pay you additional money, you spend 2 months in industry and see what is going around and create a few ideas, just from not only textbook teaching, but spend time there and then come back. When that person comes back, initial years we have to be a little patient, but then what we foresee is that they will come back with new ideas that will encourage new projects coming from the industry, and then they will do more applied research.
Moving ahead on this whole idea, what I feel, what you're saying is that faculty could end up suffering from socialistic syndrome of actually just leaving the status quo or whatever, and they get into that comfort zone, and you have to really push them forward. How is it that you're trying to do? Say, in your school, I'm sure patenting efforts do actually happen. How do you actually tell faculty to say that create enterprises around this? We will actually look at creating enterprise. You incubate students. Why don't you incubate faculty? Why can't you incubate faculty enterprises? And that's where the whole realm of industry interaction would happen. That is where real wealth could actually get created. Are you doing that, or you're not even thinking of it?
Since your specific question is to BITS Pilani, yes, we have a technology business incubation, but we did not focus on patent creation for a number of reasons, because we are a private university. Our focus on research was less 10 years back. So we focus more on teaching and creating these people, leaders of tomorrow. But then we have changed direction. We are now investing on research with all, I think Dr. Mantha knows this very well. We start with a disadvantage, private universities, where the policies do distinguish between government funded universities and private universities. I hope someday this will be sorted out. But then the industries, so the private industries or private entrepreneurs have started investing on research. That is what we do. We have an incubation center where we were supporting the students to create startups. But recently, we have also opened it up for faculty. If a faculty wants to, let us say, spend 1 day out of a week or take 1 semester off, they are encouraged to do this. So we are creating these policies to enable, like you gave the example of Stanford or MITs, where the faculty can go out and then come back. And it could be part of their semester or a semester off, and then incubate a startup and come back. We are already doing on that.
Professor Mantha, when we are talking about incubation, you must have seen schools which have stopped incubation centers, and that's horribly surprising actually. And I get surprised as to how could great business schools close an incubation center and so on and so forth, because this whole huge idea of industry incubation is about creating job creators. And I think if we are losing that whole idea, we are going to kill the way education is. We just suddenly going to become a nation of job seekers. I think that how is All India Council looking at this aspect?
No, we within the council we look at promoting incubation centers in institutions, some of the chosen identified institutions where there is a proven record of industry interactions, then patents, IPRs, and so on. That we do as a process. Fundamentally, what we need to realize is that you can't have quality extending from one end to the other. It just doesn't happen in any profession in any country. You have good teachers, very good teachers, you have very good researchers. It's not necessary that a good researcher is a good teacher and vice versa. So somebody needs to identify these differences. You need good leaders at the heading the institutions. They should necessarily have no personal agenda. They should have institutional and the national agendas, and they should look at how they are promoting these people within the organizations. You can't have everybody employed in Infosys. It just doesn't happen. So you can't have if that were the case, we should have had 100 IITs today. Why doesn't it happen today? So therefore, we can't expect that quality will extend end to end. You can make those incremental changes. Over a period of time, the system has expanded. There are a lot more institutions which have come in. If you compare 50 years back, today you have more good institutions, better institutions involved in research, involved in industry interface and so on. But if you look at the end of the day, what is the GER? It is 20. Now what was it 50 years back? It was less than 10. So have things not improved? Yes, what one can say is that rate of increase should have been much higher, but for that to happen, your internal dynamics will have to allow that to happen in every sector and every interrelated area. That seems to be somewhere choking up because of several of external issues. Now all that is very true even in an institution, even if you say why is incubation not happening, I'll say incubation should happen. It does happen in certain institutions. In fact, we are trying to promote something on a German model where people are looking at productization, process improvements, and create a harmony around the institution, bring the associated industries into that campus, associate them with the final goal of creating a product, creating a process improvement, and create the entire research around that. So you build 20-25 industries around that institution and bring that model. But these are one-off models. They are not prevalent even in the best of the countries. So what we need to do is in making those attempts to do that, we should also promote the rest of the institutions to make that small incremental change and grade and so on, and then make those 3 levels of understand that the system can be broadly segregated to 3 levels. The best, they need a different approach, they need a different model to excel. There is a mid group which has some potential to go up. You need a different model there to sustain them, and obviously there is a large group below which needs massive inputs in terms of money, in terms of the ideas, in terms of innovations, to move them into the mid group. But all this is a continuous process and it takes time.
Oh, absolutely agreed. So what you're fundamentally saying is that there has to be segmentation of institutions or whatever, but there was an underlying statement that you said, and that was about leadership prevalent in these institutions. And I think what you're saying or hinting at is that there is definitive lack of leadership within institutions. How do you overcome this? In fact, I would like to quote an interaction. There was this World Bank Ministry of HRD seminar that was happening, and there were about 300 vice chancellors there, and they all said, oh, rankings are useless. We do not have to look at that. This is because the ranking system is bad or whatever. So you were actually trying to close your eyes to reality. So the leadership is trying to close eyes to reality or change. How do you change, instill that spirit of change within them? I'm not saying it's true for all those 300 or it's true for everybody, but it is definitively true for most of them.
No, a leader cannot close himself to criticism. That will be the death of the entire story. But what he really needs to do is like you have a deficit of good teachers, you also have a deficit of good leaders. And leadership can be, if there are basic qualities within a leader, they can be enhanced through technology, they can be enhanced through exposure. A lot of exposure is required in order to understand different systems that prevail and the differences within those systems and the understanding of those differences and what they mean to his local environment. Now that is extremely important. What really happens is every leader has a huge legacy that he adopts when he enters an organization, and it's very difficult to shake off that legacy. In a private enterprise, he can probably say, to hell with this, close that down, start with a new approach and do that. But in a typical government environment, he cannot easily shake off the legacy. So therefore, he takes it as, he gets it as a baggage. Now, it is up to him how he maneuvers through the system without actually breaking the rules. Therefore, what I am also hinting at is a leader should have a healthy respect for rules, regulations and all that, and at the same time he needs to be innovative, and in the current times he has to make use of the technology in a massive way to get across to people, and above all should not have his own agenda. That's very, very important. Most of our leaders, I mean, I may be sounding very, very, very brash when I say this, most of the leaders, they enter with a personal agenda, and that's the first defeating point in everything that he does later.
So, of course, like I have seen institutions which have gone down or are going down quite rapidly because of the, agenda of the leader or whatever.